When I was growing up, I never had any figure to look up to or confide in. Every adult of every race and banner has stripped me and every child alongside myself down to replaceable tools. They called us battlefield cleaners, children sent to the field of battle after most of the fighting had ceased. We looked for valuables, name tags, anything of worth. We were small and flexible, and were ignorant of many hazards left behind by warring factions. They always threatened us to do our duties. Supposedly we were the lucky ones, as other nations would have handed us weapons, used us as cannon fodder, or utilized us as living improvised bombs. Even back then I knew that this was all wrong, but I was too afraid to talk back or run away. I have disarmed more traps and mines than these soldiers yelled at us. I have searched through more bodies and pockets than there were debris lining the roads. On more than one occasion I had to leave behind a friend's body to bring their backpack home. On more than one occasion, I held my friend's hands as their breathing slowly ceased. I remember the day I was given my first name. After the countless boy and you, I was regarded as Yellow Ribbon because I always wore one around my arm. Even back then, I knew it was not out of sincerity or care, but because I was the last battlefield cleaner left on my original crew. Even though all of my friends had died, these soldiers joked and laughed, saying that I gained rank by outlasting everyone. I have seen groups of young battlefield cleaners come and go. Many would perish from stress, injury, or worse. Sometimes I would find them crushed underneath rubble. Other times I had the displeasure of discovering that the soldiers I was with were actually right about some of the other armies. At the time I didn't know why some children or cleaners I found were in the positions they were in. Later on, when I gained more experience, I found my answer. I did not feel anything. I did not cry. I did not mourn. I did not fear whether or not I liked the answer because I didn't know what was considered a proper way to process it. I accepted what had happened and continued moving on, like always. I don't know when it happened, but through the battlefield cleaners that come and go, they looked to me like how my original crew looked at the soldiers. I don't believe I was much older than them. I am not sure how long a year even is, because that information did not matter much to me. Judging from how many winters I have experienced, I think a few years have passed. My old crew at least talked to one another. Every subsequent group thereon has spoken to me in quiet tones or fear, like I was an extra R of the soldiers. In spite of that fact, I tried my best to keep them alive as best as I could. If the stars aligned, I managed to give some battlefield cleaners a chance at a different life. I dropped them off with traders, caravans, or wanderers. No matter what experience it was, I did not feel any different. During my countless campaigns with the soldiers I was attached to, I received medals and ribbons associated with the war zones we were thrown at. Despite never being a soldier, and holding the position as a battlefield cleaner, this only happened because I outlasted the original soldiers who tormented me during my early youth. Young soldiers and conscripts get cycled in like the battlefield cleaners. This generation of troops were far removed from the men who were with me my entire childhood. Perspectives and ideologies come and go. Tired new blood from enlisted to officer were in dire need of experience. Due to my abilities honed from years of enduring, I had to operate between scrounging through rubble and teaching soldiers survival skills. I had to be told multiple times to ignore the valuables and grab supplies, or disarm traps. I was told that my skill set allowed the younger soldiers to suffer less casualties. Due to some new officers having some level of respect for me, despite our age difference, I was given medals and ribbons to reflect my involvement with the unit. From the enlisted side, I was given a thank you for the first time. I stopped seeing children be utilized as battlefield cleaners. I remained as one of the last serving ones. One soldier, saved by my teachings, even offered to give me a new name since Yellow Ribbon was not a real name. When I accepted, he decided to base my name off his favourite fairy tale book that his older sister always read to him. Franz Hellenbrand was the name I received and accepted. It did not matter much to me because everyone still called me Yellow Ribbon. With how hard the battles have been, The soldiers were fighting to survive, and not for God or country. By some miracle, the fighting actually ceased. Hearing the news, the soldiers celebrated and expressed genuine joy for the first time in years. Someone hugged me, but I didn't know who it was. I couldn't feel their embrace. A while back, I stopped processing people's faces. They were all shapes in my eyes. I thought that when the war ended, I would at least see the people who didn't treat me like a walking corpse. I was wrong. The only faces I could remember were my old friends in the old guard. With the end of the Seven Nations War, they had become unified under one banner. Across the land, war deserters, bandits, and scavengers infect every crevice and hole imaginable. Civilization had to be rebuilt from the ground up, and abandoned weapons had to be disarmed. The unit I was attached to was dragged away to reorganize the entire chain of command. I did not come with them, as I was relieved of all my duties to help rebuild. Instead of something like an orphanage or guard station, one of the officers dropped me off with a crippled soldier who was residing in the city. This man operated a workshop. I knew his surname was Olin, but no one ever said his forename in front of me before, and I never asked. I refused to at this point. "Take care of him," I recalled. "His name is Franz Hellenbrand. Probably 18 right about now. Those ribbons and medals are legitimate." I remembered the crippled man looking at me. He chuckled. I wasn't sure what expression Olin made, but his posture lowered slightly. "Hey, Yellow Ribbon. It's been a while." Attempting to remember this man was a blur. I did not feel pain, distress, or rage. "I can see it in your posture. You don't remember me. That's okay. We weren't in the same unit, but I remember you back in St. Florence, Aegis, Devil's Hill, and Where Dawn Breaks. Franz, you were one of the most helpful people there. At all of those places, if you didn't give us supplies, I would have seen more guys die. I would be dead. I'm just letting you know that you did great things. Whatever terrible things you had to do, it was offset by the positivity you went out of your way to accomplish, no matter how little you think it mattered." He raised his head to the officer, and the man vanished from my life. "Franz, allow me to say I can help you physically. I do not possess the experience to aid you mentally or spiritually. If I manage to find someone who can, I will. It is the least I can do." The crippled man approached. "Look at me. Can you see my face?" I shook my head. "No. Everyone is a shape to me, sir." He slowly nodded his head. The man remained silent for a few moments. I could hear his breathing stagger slightly. "Okay, like I just said, I can only help you physically. I'm not good enough to help someone's emotional or mental state. I already tried. I failed. I had to put down some of my men after the fighting ended. And remember, I'm here. Always. It does not matter if I am busy, or it's the dead of night. I am not ignorant about how you feel right now. So please, don't be afraid to run to me if ghosts start appearing. They are not real, but the pain they bring is beyond what time could heal." In between the light soups and food, I became the sole expert in exploring ruins. When I was not disarming weapons, I rebuilt and refurbished tools for the people and toys for the young. Ever present in the corners of my vision, I recognized faces that I haven't seen in years. In the continuous blur of a life I currently lived within, it was impossible for me to ignore these instances. Whenever I traversed ruins to disarm traps, they would be there. A moment of hesitation or a lapse of judgment, and I almost get taken out by crude traps that I have deconstructed thousands of times. Sometimes I would drag the bodies of children out of rubble, only to be told that I was carrying abandoned bags. In those times, I would isolate myself and just stare at the sky, or the people I was trying to help. When things got too quiet, my heart raced and I felt like vomiting. I couldn't stop shaking. It always felt like someone was going to ambush me, or something was going to destroy my position. It never happened. Nothing ever actually happens, but my body refused to accept that new reality. During my solitary hours, a chaplain from one of the other armies found me, Father Barranco. Franz Hellenbrand? His voice was strained. It was painful for him to speak due to mustard gas exposure. I am. Sergeant Olin sent me to help. Follow me if you want. I followed him. Though he led me to one of the blown-out churches, the confessional booth somehow avoided being destroyed or scrapped for firewood. Enter, please. I took one side of the booth while the father manned the other side. While I waited, I heard the rustling of paper between that man's fingers. Laurie Pepper, Johannes Bleidenberg, Thomas Balaban, Sainti Carles, Freda Muller, Ian Kappis, Ryan Plankensteiner. Recognize them? My mind was a massive fuzz trying to associate those names to faces. No. Former battlefield cleaners. Some changed names, living better lives. They spoke of you. Not just them. More people. Many pages. Continue. No. Why am I in this booth? I don't understand. Privacy. No interruptions. There is no one here. Only our voices exist. Nothing else. Speak your thoughts. Nothing is too little. Nothing is too much. Only sin. Denying pain. I dumped everything I could fathom onto Father Barranco. It took a long while for me to reveal what I felt for years, but it got pried out of me. Not once did he force himself upon me. The burdens carried were so all-encompassing that I broke myself. I couldn't remember the words that flowed out of my mouth. I cried. I was on the ground of a confessional booth, and all I could do was cry. There was more repressed pain coming out of my mouth than actual words. Father Barranco had left his side and opened up the door on my end. The light bled in on my curled-up body. Even though I couldn't see his face, I knew Father Barranco was not looking down at me. He stepped back, more than enough room for me to just run out and breathe. He crouched down low, enough for us to see eye to eye. Many contradicting emotions rampaged across my being. I wanted to breathe, escape this small booth, but I couldn't. I didn't know if my body or my mind refused to, or both. During my degradation, in a single moment of clarity, through the tears, I reached out to the man in front of me. He hugged me immediately. Even though my emotions spiraled out of control, a physical anchor was there to hold some of it. I acknowledged the pain that has existed within me for the longest 13 years anyone could feel. I never wanted to die as much as this moment, yet I wanted to live more. To this day, I can't see people's faces. Sometimes when I talk to some passing merchants or relief groups, people thank me for saving them. I did not know if they were former battlefield cleaners, soldiers I found supplies for, or regular people that I traded with in the past. I could never tell, but I knew that someone lived a little longer because of me. Sometimes I get painful reminders of my failures. Sometimes it came from obvious triggers, but more often than not, it was the unassuming that gets me more. The remnants of my past may remain with me for another 13 years, or until I die. I don't know. More than Sergeant Olin or Father Barranco, I found more people that I could confide in. Those who understand my pain, and those who are great at listening. Before, I have been asked if I considered myself a hero. I don't know. It does not matter. All I recognize is that people are glad I want to live.